This is a type of M board you can actually make off of one card, and no, that card's name is not Snake Eye Ash, but one new card coming out of Legacy of Destruction that no one is talking about nor hyping up right now. Guys, I'm going to show you how. What's good, YouTube? It's me, Squid, back in another Squiddyos. So I was scouring the card pool in Legacy of Destruction, because that's coming out next week, and comparing and contrasting the cards in the OCG to what we have here. There's one engine people are just completely forgetting about, period. And this engine is actually like low-key, almost just as good as the Snake Eye engine when you compare them 1-to-1, because it is a one-card engine starter that allows you to amass a bunch of advantage throughout. You also get to play, in addition to your normal summon, a package of 3 powerful extender cards that are basically Shadow Fusion. So it's a lot like kind of how you have Black Witch and the Snake Eyes. I want to explain to you guys what the heck we're getting and why the heck no one is talking about these cards. So yes, as you guys know, they are the Melodious cards. We're getting new support for an existing forgotten archetype that nobody knows existed. If you guys play instruments, and you'll probably adore this because this is a very musical driven archetype, the Melodious cards that we're getting, first and foremost, 2 new pendulum monsters. The first one is Refrain, the Melodious Songstress. She's a level 4 fairy pendulum with 1600 attack. That is a pendulum effect of you can target a Melodious fusion monster you control, send 1 Melodious monster from your deck to the graveyard, and if you do, the target monster gains attack equal to the sent monster's level times 200. And, you know, this effect is quite relevant during our combo, but the one we really care about is the monster effect that says when this card is no more special summoned, you add a Melodious monster from your deck to your hand except herself. And then if a Melodious fusion monster is special summoned to your field while this card is face up on the extra deck, you can actually place this card in your Pendulum Zone. So it's a Stratos for any Melodious monster, and it just happens so that we actually have some very, very crucial and powerful Melodious monsters coming out. And it just happens we're getting another Melodious card that's also very, very strong for you to search with Refrain, called Couplet, the Melodious Songstress, who's also a pendulum monster, this time level 5. But this pendulum effect says you cannot pendulum summon except light monsters. You cannot negate this effect. I asked in Judge's Lounge, trust me, I got clowned on. If you do not control any face-up monsters other than Melodious, or if you control no monsters, this also works, you can add a Melodious Spiral Trap from your deck to your hand. Yep, this is a pendulum effect that allows you to search for any Melodious Spiral Trap. That's kind of busted. It means Refrain can all of a sudden search monsters and spells or traps by bridging into Couplet. Now, the monster effect says if this card is added to your hand except by drawing it, oh god, Poplar, yep, you can reveal this card, special summon 1 level 4 or lower Melodious monster from your hand or your graveyard. So no, you cannot special summon Couplet herself because she's level 5, but you can still special summon out a Refrain that's in your graveyard. This is pretty busted. And then the other effect, obviously sharing the same effect as Refrain, if a Melodious fusion monster is special summoned to your field while this card is face up in your extra deck, you can place it in your Pendulum Zone. So anytime we're fusing with these guys, we instantly just get to place them back in our Pendulum Zones and set up the scales for free. Because of course, Pendulum monsters will go to the extra deck when they're used as materials on the field, right? Which would still allow them to trigger upon the resolution of the fusion summon. The next powerful support card that we care about in terms of Melodious, which we're getting in lead, is Baka, the Melodious Maestra. She is a whopping level 7 fusion with 2500 attack, and she requires 2 Melodious monsters. So no, not very specific. She says your Melodious fusion monster's activated effects cannot be negated while you control this fusion summon card. Yes, very, very powerful effect. And then Hard One's Return. If this card is special summoned, you can special summon a Melodious monster directly from your deck. Crazy trigger effect. But no, they didn't say we're going to stop here. They said if this card is sent to the graveyard, you can target a Melodious monster in your graveyard, except Baka, the Melodious Maestra, special summon it in defense mode. Holy crap, this allows you to special summon a Melodious on summon from your deck, and then when you link off or do whatever the heck you want to with her on the field, then you get to special summon back a Melodious from your graveyard. Yup, this is actually kind of nutty. We are also getting an in-archetype fusion spell called Melodious Concerto, which is a normal spell card that says fusion summon a fairy fusion monster from your extra deck. Nope, not just Melodious, any fairies, using monsters from your hand, field, and or Pendulum Zone. Okay, we are officially delving into Pendulum Fusion territory where we can now make use of our scales in more ways than one. We can actually use them as fusion materials. And then taking a page out of the Metaphors playbook, it says, if a Melodious fusion monster is sent to your graveyard while this card is in your graveyard, even during the damage step, you can place this card on the bottom of your deck, then draw 1 card. So it does replace itself even after you use it as a fusion resource out of your hand, you know? I don't know if you guys put this one and one together yet, but basically you normal summon Refrain, add a copy of Couplet, place her in the scale, use the effect to add the fusion spell, activate the fusion spell, use both from your pendulum zone and on your field, special out the fusion, special summon from your deck, set up your pendulum scales. Yes, there are some combos brewing now. But that's not where it stops, okay? You guys are probably wondering, okay, this seems all right. There has to be some more to make this even better. Well, there happens to be an existing Shadow fusion for the archetype. Ostinato is a normal common spell card. They made this card common, but guys, read this effect, it's busted. It says if you control no monsters, fusion summon one Melodious fusion monster from your extra deck using 2 monsters from your hand and or deck as fusion material. During the end phase of the turn, destroy that fusion summon monster, and if you do, if all of the fusion materials are in your graveyard, you can special summon them back. So there are no real drawbacks with this. It does not lock you into anything. It's a little unfortunate that, yes, this part of the effect that revives from the graveyard can actually cause this card to be ghost spelled and ashed, but that being said, if this card resolves, you're off to the races. Now that we've kind of gone over the cards, let's actually take a look at the combo to see what the heck exactly happens when we take this into practice. Before we jump in, guys, I just wanted to announce that we have officially launched the Squiddy Store. Yep, if you guys want some Squiddy-tastic merch, check the link in the description, squiddytastic.com. These are all hand-drawn t-shirts that I actually hand-drew myself. Yeah, I have some subtle experience drawing cartoons here and there. But we have 3 designs so far, so guys, definitely check them out. They come in a lot of different colors and sizes, but we will actually have some more designs coming quickly along the way, so stay tuned for some of your favorite creatures from the history of the game. And yeah, other than that, guys, just give this a quick look if you like some exciting merch to level up your game and also look kind of trendy at your next event. But yeah, let's jump back to today's Squiddio. So how the combo works is you can have either Refrain the Songstress as your normal summon, or you can just start off with the spell card Ostinato. And what we're going to do here is normal summon the Refrain, use the effect to search for Couplet, activate Couplet in our scale, and then that will turn on the effect to search for Concerto, like we previously discussed. Activate Concerto because we're able to fusion summon using the Pendulum Zone as well. And then from here, summon out the Melodious Maestra. Yep, she's really thick because she's going to get the effect. Chain Link 1, Chain Link 2, Chain Link 3. We're going to use both Refrain and the Couplet to rescale themselves. From here, we'll resolve and summon the second copy of Refrain. This is relevant being a level 4. Now we can activate the effect of the Scale Refrain to dump a copy of a Refrain, the third copy, because we do need this in the graveyard to resurrect off of the Bacha effect because we don't have any other Melodious in our graveyard to resurrect when she's in the graveyard, right? So from here, we're going to link off into the Beyond the Pendulum. This is really cool because all this takes is 2 effect monsters, including a Pendulum monster. And then from here, we're going to be able to activate the effect of Chain Link 1 Beyond the Pendulum, Chain Link 2 Bacha, Chain Link 3 Concerto to shuffle back and then draw a card. Let's say that we just drew a copy of Ash Blossom, you know, a hand trap. Then we'll special summon back the copy of Refrain. We're going to use Beyond the Pendulum to search for another copy of Couplet. Bear in mind, we're now locked. We cannot activate monster effects unless we Pendulum Summon, which we have the necessary resources to do so. We can Pendulum Summon out that copy of Refrain and then the other copy of Couplet, and then we can overlay both of the Refrains for Infernal Flame Banshee, or however you guys want to do this. This is what I meant. Like, this engine is splashable in a lot of different decks. It's a lot like the Heavy Samurais, where you can just make a free rank 4 of your choosing and then bridge off into different things. I just happen to want to do the Snake Eyes stuff, you know, just to stay a little bit meta relevant, show you guys something cool, but you know, you can do other things, right? So from here, we're going to use Banshee to detach, search for Poplar, special Poplar, add original, link off the Beyond the Pendulum as well as the Couplet to go into one of the newer cards, Exceed the Pendulum, which a lot of people are not talking about. This card is forgotten about, but it says when he's summoned, you can add back a copy of a card that's face up in your extra deck to your hand. Then because Couplet is added to our hand, remember it has that Poplar-esque effect where if it's added to your hand except by drawing it, you can reveal it and special summon a level 4 or lower Melodious monster. Yep, that works, even added from the extra deck. So we'll go ahead and do that. Special summon out the Refrain, and then from here we have the bodies on board. So we're going to link off the Poplar for Anima. Then we're going to activate Original, go into our Snake Eye Oak. Oak brings back the Poplar for extra bodies. We can tribute off both. But first, I guess we'll just go off into SP Little Knight with the Infernal Flame Banshee, because if you guys remember this quirky little play that we did a while ago, you can banish the Banshee to get it back as a free body, so you're link climbing for free here. It's really, really neat. Then we can send off the Oak and the Anima. You cannot send the Pendulum Scales because those would not go to the graveyard, so you can't do that as a cost. So then summon out the Flamberge, and then, you know, we can also use Exceed the Pendulum's other effect, which says if you have Pendulum Scales during the main phase, you can quick effect special summon a Pendulum monster from your hand or graveyard in defense mode with a level between the Pendulum Scales. So you're basically getting a free Pendulum summon from your graveyard. So now we have another 2 level 4s on the board. You can make another rank 4 for something, for example, something like a Abyss Dweller if you choose, or you can just link climb with them however you want to do it. And then from here, let's say we link up an IP Masquerena, we trigger Flamberge, bring back our dudes. We can now just do the traditional Snake Eyes stuff, go off into Princess effect, bring back Flamberge, place the IP back, and then from here, you have a different variety of things to do. Your Firelock, so you can go off into Amblewill, you can link up SP and Exceed to go into Appaloosa. It's a little unoptimized because you were using like 3 and 2 to make a level 4, but you guys get the point. Maybe you can make this better. Otherwise, you can probably better just use the Amblewill instead and use the Exceed the Pendulum. So then from there, you just go off into an Appaloosa. Either way, you're getting a disgusting board of epic proportions. And this is again off 1 card. So obviously, I'm playing a lot of bricks in this particular build to give you guys a demonstration of the sheer ceiling of the power. We still have another 4 cards in hand because this is a 1 card combo, okay? You're drawing a card along the process as well. But guys, I'm sure you can optimize this to be even better, and maybe in the right deck, you know, just summoning Refrain could just be insane value. Now, what about with Ostinato? In fact, with Ostinato, it's actually even a better combo because you're not wasting your normal summon immediately off of the Refrain. Instead, we're activating it directly to Foolish, the copy of the Melodious, summon out the Botcha, and then we can use the effect of the Botcha to summon out the Refrain. Refrain does get the effect on special summon, so yes, we're bypassing our normal summon to do this, setting up the kind of same signature play here that you guys previously saw. We can link off to go off into the Beyond the Pendulum. Note that we are missing 1 scale here, which will have to be searched off the Beyond the Pendulum, but that gets replaced because you can go into Infernal Flame Banshee and then search for the Snake Eye Ash instead and normal summon that. So you get the same amount of bodies, more or less, but it's really nice not having to lead off with your normal summon because that's very high impact nowadays in Yu-Gi-Oh! Then from here, you can Pendulum Summon out for 1. You can overlay these into the Infernal Flame Banshee, and it's more or less the same thing, and we have not yet triggered the Pendulum effects either, so these guys can come back. Another really cool thing is you can go into an existing Melodious fusion called Schuberta, the Melodious Maestra. These guys are so thick. I love it. This card says, during either player's turn, you can target up to 3 cards in any graveyard, banish them. It's effectively an Ishizu on legs, and it's crazy. You know, you can now go into like a graveyard-based disruption instead of going off in the second copy of Botcha. So you have a lot of options. Obviously, this is the extent of what I'm probably going to demonstrate to you guys because there's just the rest of the line is pretty streamlined. But you guys can probably make it a little better and somehow take advantage of these guys because I think they're really powerful and no one's talking about them. I'm like, guys, this is actually a deck in the OCG and Pendulums, but thinking outside of the box, maybe there's a way to integrate them into our regular, everyday, non-Pendulum-based decks. Now here's the demonstration of the engine. You probably want to play somewhere between 2 to 3 Couplet, 3 Refrain obviously, 3 Ostinato, it's a starter, and then 1 Concerto because that's one's just part of the combo. It's kind of a brick. But brick-wise, you know, this deck does not really have a lot of bricks in the engine. You could argue Couplet is maybe a brick, but again, it depends on the deck you're playing it against. Obviously, Pendulum is the first one that comes to mind. In the OCG, they actually still have Kirin banned, and the fact that you can search for Bambuku or Kirin off of the Beyond the Pendulum, let's say you search for Bambuku, you Pendulum summon him out, his effect searches for Kirin, you can then use the effect of Exceed later on to special summon out the Kirin. It's just a lot of crazy plays that I think you can do with this. Now, I did account for one thing. Obviously, these guys being Pendulums will get hurt by Dimensional Barrier if you're playing like a Pendulum-based deck. So there are actually non-Pendulum Melodious, because they were never Pendulums before this. So Solo the Melodious Songstress is one of the best ones that I found, because this card says if your opponent controls a monster and you control none, special summon it out, a lot like Pankratops or Cyber Dragon. Also, when this card is destroyed by battle, you can special summon a Melodious from your deck. So this does a lot of things. Obviously, it's not like the best card to draw, but it's not a brick. But what happens is if you're under D-Barrier and you activate Ostinato, you can still summon out the Botcha and then use her effect to special summon out the Solo, so at least you have 2 bodies on the board to go link climb and start playing. And Solo just happens to be a decent, okay card if you draw it. It's not the end of the world, it's an extender, right? So that's just one thing you can definitely consider looking into. We talked about Schuberta, the Melodious Maestra. By the way, guys, the pure Melodious deck is actually decently good. I know it did some damage in the OCG, so definitely take a look into that. I haven't really explored that yet, but I just thought this engine as a whole was really cool. Potentially in Pendulums, this would be really obviously just fit right at home like a glove, but in the other decks, I think this is really playable. I think you could also slot this into something like a voiceless voice, just because people are already playing branded fusion. This gives it just so much more firepower and the ability to like link climb and make this huge board potentially before you normal summon with the Ostinato, put up like an Appaloosa and then normal summon and start doing your plays is really, really cool, I think. And then, of course, you know, there are some other cool things you can do. Number one is the fact that I realized Melodious Concerto does not have to fusion summon a Melodious. It can do any fairy fusion monster. So there are a couple of fairy fusion monsters in this game. Shadal Construct is another one that happens to be a fairy type. So if you happen to have some kind of Shadal engine, you can actually use your pendulum scaled Melodious alongside another Shadal monster in your hand or on your field to make Construct. You can go into Patricial Couverture, which requires, I think, 2 pendulum monsters. So that's something else that you can directly go into instead of one of these Melodious monsters. And this card actually has an effect that I think that places it into the pendulum zone and you can rescale something else. So it's like a free scale. It's not the best, but it's an option. They have a bunch of rank 4s, obviously. Inferno Flame Banshee. Gear Gagan can go into Machine Engine. Dweller, just like same thing with Baguska. Just options there for floodgating out your opponent. So these are just like really, really cool, especially against like Flu and like random decks like that. You have Link monsters, you don't care, but they do. Gallon Granite can go to rocks. You have the Galaxy Photon Dragon to go off into the Curry Photon. Like, guys, we previously talked about Curry Photon being good against Tempais because this card says you pay 2,000 life points and then discard it during the main phase or any phase. So before the battle phase, before they can lock you out with Odd Eyes Meteor Burst Dragon. And then what you do here is you actually search that to your hand, pay 2,000 life points, and you're protected. You take no damage for the rest of the turn. So that's something else you can definitely consider side decking. The Exo Sister, Patel to go off in your Exo Sister plays. The Raid Raptors go to Raid Raptor stuff. The King of the Pharaohs to go off into your Reptile plays. So there are a lot of options with this. I'm personally really excited for this. I want to test it out in Pendulums, I think. But I think in the other decks, this card is really, really, really powerful, this engine as a whole. Guys, what do you think about this engine? I mean, the fact that there's an existing Shadal fusion, I just like, it blew my mind. Like, this has no drawbacks, does not lock you into anything. With the existing Link monsters and the Pendulum support that we have so far, these guys can actually be a huge lethal threat, I think, in the right deck and if built right. So I would love to hear your thoughts. Let me know in the comments below. Guys, rate, comment, subscribe, smash the like button if you haven't already. And let me know your thoughts on the Melodious stuff that's coming out. I'm really excited for it, but I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks for tuning in. Bye-bye.